Thanks, Chris. Certainly it's good to be here tonight. Appreciate everybody's attendance here. Want to thank and extend a thank you to all of you for all the work that was done for our Friends and Family Day. I'm guessing we had probably around 80 or so visitors, which is tremendous to have that many people from our community, people that you've invited to be here, and so commend you for that and your efforts and all the work. Lots of work went into making today a success. We had lots of men and women and teenagers and all kinds of people were involved in setting up and getting things together. And I heard several positive comments from those who were here today for the first time. And in fact, I was told that some of the attendance cards that were turned in, there were some comments made looking for a church home. So some encouraging news from all the things that took place today. And again, thank you for all of your work. We've posted, and we may need to change the time. We were going to maybe leave at 4 o'clock. We may have to leave at 3 o'clock. Several congregations in the area are going to Ohio State University on September 27th. In the evening, there's going to be a debate there between Dr. Ralph Gilmore, who is a professor at Freed-Hardeman University, and a well-known atheist. And they're going to be having a debate at Ohio State University. It's put on by the Warren Apologetics Center in Vienna, West Virginia, named after the late Thomas B. Warren, who was the dean at Harding Graduate School in Memphis for several years. So be thinking about that. It's a great activity. A lot of folks are taking kids out of school to go to that because it'll be an opportunity to really see two scholars, well-known scholars, debate on, I think they're going to debate on human suffering and how human suffering from the atheist standpoint proves that there is no God. And Dr. Gilmore will be countering that. So keep that in your thoughts. You know, there are some things that simply don't go together. When I was in Lexington last week, or the week before last when I was in Lexington, at the hotel I stayed at, I noticed there was a Waffle House there. And, well, that's not that unusual to see a Waffle House near a hotel. But there was a big banner outside the Waffle House that says, "We do catering." And I just kind of thought, I don't know about that. I don't know if I want to go to some party and they say it's being catered by Waffle House. No offense to Waffle House, but it's like, Waffle House, really? So, and then I noticed there's a commercial on TV for a Whopper sandwich from Burger King, and it's a burrito. And it's got like a Whopperito name to it or something like that. That doesn't really seem to go together to me that much. Or on a day like today, and a man's polyester suit does not go very well together, those two concepts. Or, I just had to say this, the Cleveland Browns and a Super Bowl ring. Those things just don't seem to go together very well. Something else that may not seem to go very well together is a cross overlooking Hollywood. But that's exactly what is in Hollywood. Now, I know many of you are familiar with the sign that's on Mount Lee in Hollywood that says Hollywood, right? That sign used to say Hollywood Land, and it was advertising a new housing addition that was going to be built in the area. And the sign was designed to last for about 18 months, just enough to promote the new housing subdivision. Well, eventually, it was decided to kind of keep that sign as a permanent sign over Hollywood, and so they had to take the land part off because it was talking about that housing subdivision. That sign was erected in 1923, and it's gone through several revisions, but most of us, we see the sign, we're very familiar with it. But there's a less known sign that's about as big that is to the forefront of that Hollywood sign. It's a 32-foot cross, and it's called the Hollywood Pilgrimage Memorial Monument. And it was also erected in 1923, the same year that the Hollywood Land sign was erected. And it was a sign that was erected, that the cross was erected as a memorial to a woman who was an heir to the Pittsburgh paint fortune, and she had actually helped to fund the Hollywood Bowl. And you've probably seen the Hollywood Bowl, and there are many famous concerts that have taken place at the Hollywood Bowl. She wanted that place, she designed that place to be a venue to host plays about Jesus. And of course, over time, it's hosted all kinds of things there. Over time, that cross belonged to the city of Los Angeles. And so it was kind of interesting. The cross belonged to the city, and the city actually maintained it for a number of years. They lit it at night. They paid for the electricity. When it fell into disrepair, they painted it. They took good care of that sign. But in the late 1970s, there was a lot of controversy about that sign, obviously, as you can imagine. And there were people who were trying to say that the city should not be lighting up a cross at night and paying for it. And so there was a man by the name of Kenneth Hahn. Kenneth Hahn was a graduate of Pepperdine University, and Kenneth Hahn was the chair of the Board of Supervisors of Los Angeles and had been one of the youngest supervisors and been on the supervisor board there for a number of years, a member of the church. He really promoted that sign should stay, that cross should stay. And so he worked kind of out a deal where somebody else would purchase it, but it would still be maintained. It's kind of interesting about Kenneth Hahn. If you don't know much about him, the Hahn family are all members of the Church of Christ. Kenneth's son, James Hahn, was the mayor of Los Angeles back in the 2000s. And today, his daughter Janice Hahn is a United States Congresswoman from the Los Angeles area. In fact, in 1957, the county seal of Los Angeles County actually has a cross on it based upon the cross that was there in front of the Hollywood sign. And the person who designed that cross on that county seal was Kenneth Hahn. And that cross stayed on that seal until 2004. And they had to take the cross off, and there have been some efforts to put the cross back on the sign. A lot of history there, isn't there, about a cross at the front of Hollywood. And when you think of Hollywood, you think of the values that are in Hollywood. You think of the crime that takes place in Hollywood. You think of the movies that are made in Hollywood, many things that are disgusting to a lot of us. And yet overshadowing Hollywood is a 30-foot tall cross symbolizing Jesus, the one who died on that cross. To a lot of people, the cross and salvation don't go together. When you think about it, an instrument of execution. Can you imagine if, a lot of people today will wear a cross around their neck, or they'll wear some kind of like cross, earrings or some kind of cross jewelry. Can you imagine if somebody had around their neck like an electric chair, or a gas chamber or something like that? I mean, that's really, when you think about it, that's what the first century thought of when they thought of a cross. I mean, really? You're reveling in a cross? In an electric chair? In a gas chamber? You're really into all that? And we are. Because Jesus took a symbol of death and despair and turned it into something great, and it represents our salvation from our sins. In fact, look, if you will, at 1 Corinthians chapter 1, beginning in verse 18 and going through verse 23. Here in the text, Paul makes clear, I know to all of you in the world at this time, he was saying the cross seems like a foolish concept. But to those who were Jews, it didn't make sense. And to those who were Greeks, it didn't make sense. To the Gentile population. But it is what Jesus chose. And I want to read to you from a different translation. This is the Easy English translation, verses 18 through 23. And I really like how it kind of breaks it down. Listen to what it says. People who are far from God cannot understand that message about Christ's death on the cross. They think it's silly. But that same message shows something to us whom God is saving. It shows us how powerful God is. It says in the Old Testament, I will destroy all the words and thoughts of clever people. I will put on one side the ideas of people who seem to understand a lot. Verse 20. So then, the clever people in the world are not great, really. The clever students in this world are not great, really. Some people know how to argue, but those people are not great, really. No, because God has different ideas. He has shown that even the cleverest people in the world are really fools. Verse 21. God has his own great thoughts and ideas, and he has made it impossible for people to know him by their own thoughts and ideas. Instead, God uses that message about Jesus. He used it to save everyone who believes it, and we tell that same message to everyone, even if it seems crazy. Verse 22. Jews want to see God do something powerful so that they will believe. But what do they get? They get an electric chair. They get a gas chamber. They get a cross, right? And, verse 22, people who are not Jews want to believe other people's clever ideas. You think about the ancient Greeks. You think of Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, who wanted to think about clever ideas. Give me a clever idea. No, how about a cross? That's not a clever idea. The world thinks it's what? Foolish, not clever to the masses. Verse 23. But as for us, we talk about how Christ died on a cross of wood. This is a message that the Jews refuse to believe, and the Gentiles, people who are not Jews, think that it is a silly message. And even today, people think that a cross is a silly message. But Jesus took the cross, an instrument of execution in the first century, an instrument of disdain that only the hardened criminals died upon. And from it, he died, he arose, never to die again. And so a cross and salvation may not seem to go together. It certainly didn't seem to go together in the first century, and it may not today to a lot of people. But I'm here to tell you that cross and Hollywood, doesn't Hollywood need Jesus? Don't all of us need Jesus? That's where true salvation is found. And so remember, what the world may think is foolish, what the world may want to argue about, God sees as wisdom. Tonight, if you've never obeyed the gospel of Jesus Christ, won't you accept the wooden cross? What may seem foolish really is the way to salvation. If you are a Christian but you've not been living faithful to your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, you can come back to him tonight, be restored, leave here tonight, pillow your head tonight, knowing you have a proper relationship with him. If we can help you in any way, won't you? Please come forward while together we stand and sing to encourage you.